much shorter. We have. I beg your pardon. I thought it was the interval already. We have the interval after you. Okay, fine. Okay, good. Well done. Okay, so after Dr. Goher has spoken, we'll have an interval. That's my opportunity now just to say, please do come and taste some typical Gazan food. We're putting out on the tables at the back. It includes some bread that we made last night, so a lot of effort went into ensuring that it was a genuine Gazan recipe, and be served with some cold drinks. So welcome, Goher. Thank you very much.
Hi there, everyone. I think I'm just going to start by saying a huge thank you to Philippa and all the colleagues who put on this absolutely beautiful event. So thank you, and thanks for the invite. I'm Rahbour. I'm a consultant co-director and general surgeon. I work here locally at Suffolk Hospital. Just a brief background. I grew up in London and I've worked in over 20 hospitals across the UK. With that experience, I went to Gaza, to Nasser Hospital in June of this year. I was there for a month, and this was with Medical Aid for Palestinians, which is an amazing organisation. You've all seen the devastation and destruction which has gone on for decades, but particularly over these last couple of years. And with the Gaza surgeons, sadly we operated on a huge number of children and adults who were there. We operated on injuries such as small bowel, large bowel injuries, to the liver, to the spleen, kidneys, heart, putting in chest drains. This was all with a huge lack of resources. We lacked antibiotics, antiseptic solutions, gowns, drapes, muscle relaxants, simple surgical drains that we would need. But simply a lack of basic kit which we need in day-to-day management of patients. For the first couple of weeks which I was there, the main injuries were from bomb blast, shrapnel injuries to these children and adults. In the second 2 weeks, it was mainly from the shootings which were taking place at these so-called food distribution centres, and now we know over 2,000 people died just simply to go and get some food aid. So the experience was incredibly profound. There were other issues. There were cancer patients. There were those who we operated on some, but unfortunately most of them were inoperable. Those cancers had already spread to the liver, lungs, bone, advanced pathology. There was a lack of chemotherapy. Other issues were nutrition. There was clear lack of what we call parenteral enteral nutrition. There was hardly anything available. And around the world, people are debating if there was actual malnutrition taking place. It was only in the last few months the UN has said there was a famine going on. There were mass casualty events. I will never forget my first one. There was 200 people who came in, and there was 30 in addition to that dead on arrival. Those type of events kept on happening every few days. They were sometimes twice happening in a day. So there's a lot of suffering which has happened. There's a lot of psychological harm as well. I think with this lovely event, I've got to share some positive points, because this is what it's about. It's actually the character of the people who are there. So simply on food and drink issues, when you go into Gaza, you take with you things like tuna and protein bars, multivitamins. And what I found was they actually wanted to look after me. They were, Goher, are you okay? Do you want some more tea? Do you want some more coffee, rice and beans? And that just tells you a lot about the character of people who have so very little themselves. There was a colleague, Khalid Al-Sir. He's featured quite heavily in the documentary, which was not shown in the BBC but was shown on Channel 4. On one particular mass casualty event, his uncle had died. He had gone and buried his uncle, and that very same evening we were operating back in theatre. The scrub nurse on that particular case had a chest drain placed 2 weeks before and was now back at work. So these are incredible people who are living in tents, but yet are trying to make the most of life with the time that they will have. There are nurses, doctors, cooks, cleaners, all working incredibly hard. They have the harshest of environments that they're living in tents. Some have been displaced up to 15 times. No electricity, lack of sanitation. There's a lovely colleague called Mohammed Oka. He's a surgical registrar going through his training. Lovely, very funny personality. And whenever we went to a ward, he would say, "This is the best nurse that's here in the hospital." If we went to radiology, he would say, "This is the best radiologist." That would just bring smiles on everyone's face. It was his way. And one day he came to me and said, "Goher, I'm going to be away for a couple of days. I'm going to go north Gaza." And I said, "Why?" He was looking all very slick, very shaved and looking sharp. And he was going to meet his fiancée. So now becomes this journey which, for those who know, things like Krypton Factor, 18 MacGyver combined, is going to make his way travelling up north. And this is on the back of a donkey cart, then on a motorbike. You travel up north, you get to these Israeli checkpoints. You have to leave your vehicle, you walk, and then you make your way into North Gaza. It was absolutely incredible. I did say to him, "She better be happy when you get there." They were medical students, so we used to do teaching to these medical students on the wards, and I was always so impressed. They were superbly dressed, just having that pride in their appearance, the dignity, despite their circumstances. There were other students and surgeons who were still revising and actually doing exams. So with the limited internet, they were doing online exams, they were doing these Vivas and OSCEs. It was just incredible how you study in such an environment. Another point I'll touch on is there was no hatred that I heard from those colleagues from Gaza. So going in, you hear a lot of things from the Israeli side, like I say, things like the people there are vermin or cockroaches, this dehumanizing vocabulary. But you don't hear of any of those things from those colleagues from Gaza, and part of it is to do with faith. Yes, people like Netanyahu and these type of people, they're probably not going to end up in prison, there's not going to be accountability, they're not going to serve justice, but the belief and the faith is they'll definitely get that accountability in the next life. And with that faith, you can just believe, not have any hatred, and just carry on with your life as best as you can. Just coming to some of the conditions now. So yes, there is a ceasefire, and definitely there is some improvement. There are some positive comments coming out from Gaza. There is some cautious, fragile optimism. There is a colleague, Mahmoud, he works as a map coordinator, and for the first time he said he's had a little bit of meat to eat in these last 18 months, delicious. Price is still high, but manageable. Muhammad Oka tells about now he can go for a walk without the fear of a missile landing on his head, laughing emojis, but that's the reality he faces. So just coming to a close now, I think it's really important to have events like this, marches and so forth. There will be people in Gaza who will see this, they'll see photos and videos, and it will truly bring a smile on their face, so it all does matter. Boycotts, take part in your own boycotts. I boycott Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Starbucks, Jaffa Oranges. At the very least, it makes me feel good, so do what you can. From a healthcare perspective, currently there are petitions going on to the Royal Colleges. There has been a hypocrisy of silence when it comes to Gaza and Palestine issue compared to other conflicts. And finally, there are campaigns ongoing to possibly have legal challenges to the Health Secretary to allow healthcare workers to speak freely on issues of Gaza and Palestine. So there's a lot of work going on. Important to stay active. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening.